Quincy, Florida,
What year?
1921. 65th Division.
How long did you serve in the war?
We were actually in combat only about 4 or 5 months.
Were you?
I don't know, there were about 3 units that came in there, but anyway, that was the first concentration camp that actually been overrun by the Americans or anyone. Before that, it was rumored. They said, well, the Germans are killing people wholesale and so forth, but nobody had any proof or anything. Boy, there it was. So anyway, the SHAEF headquarters, there was Eisenhower and Montgomery and Patton and Bulldog Smith, and all the SHAEF headquarters from Paris flew over there and came in to see it. And I had some big 8.5 by 11 pictures of them, and one of my kids took it to school for show and tell, and somebody stole them. So anyway, it was so terrible that old George Patton, tough as he was, he threw up. I said, were you ever scared? Asked some fellow. He says, no, but a few times I was shaken with patriotism. Well, you have mixed emotions about that thing. It opened up a whole field of, I guess, mass destruction and so forth. It felt like, well, you know, you're not going to be able to keep it secret forever. And sooner or later, it's going to be used again. And right now, you got North Korea and Iran both working on getting nuclear weapons, and they'll get them from the Russians or they'll get the know-how from them. But anyway, we may still end up with a nuclear war one of these days. But it saved a whole lot of American lives at that point in time, because to invade Japan, they've been fighting tooth and nail right down to the last person, and there's been a tremendous loss of lives. So anyway, we were in Germany, and they started shipping people directly from Germany and went through the Suez Canal and around India and going over to the Far East, and then they shipped some of them back to the States. They got a furlough and they transferred them across by railroad over to the West Coast, and then they were shipping them from California to the Far East. And so anyway, we were standing there from day to day wondering where we're going next or something, but to finish the war in Europe in May, and then the bombs went off and they finished the war in August that same year. We weren't in combat very long, but we went from 1 mile inside Germany. We followed all the way across Germany and about a third of the way down through Austria. End up on the Enns River down there and met the Russians. And there's one unusual story there, that there's a captain had a whole company of people, and he went across the Enns River and did a reconnoiter to see what was over there. And anyway, all of a sudden some German officer stepped out and says, halt. And he stopped, and he turned around and looked back towards the river, and there were Germans dug in all over the place, but it was camouflage and they couldn't see them. And here they were standing out in the open with just Boku Germans all aiming their guns, and he says, well, we came over here to accept the surrender of General Lee. And the fellow said, we don't have a General Lee. He says, well, he said, we got information. We're just an honor guard coming over here to escort him into the American lines. And he said, we never heard it. He says, your army's about like ours. Everything's all messed up and so forth. So sorry about that. So about face, they walked back across the bridge and then ran like hell. But that was quick thinking on your feet. But anyway, the next day or day after that or something, all these Germans surrendered. They didn't want to be captured by the Russians. So we had 6 divisions come across the Enns River and surrender to the Americans. And we had something like 6 or 8 German soldiers for every soldier we had in our outfit, trying to direct them and do something with them in some orderly fashion. But that's kind of scary to have 8 times as many prisoners as you got soldiers. But they didn't want to be taken by the Russians, and so anyway, we took them. But last year I was over there. I was working in a prisoner of war camp, and the SS, a lot of them were guilty of war crimes, and so they'd find a German soldiers about their size and shoot them in the head, take their uniform and their dog tags off, and then they'd go surrender somewhere and try to get papers to go back into civilian life under a false name. And so these prisoner of war cages, we were trying to separate the Wehrmacht, which is a regular army, from the SS. And we had 3 counterintelligence groups in the cages there. And I never knew who they were or how they got the information out, but I'd go in there and call off a list of German names and take them up, and they'd be interviewed, and they'd hold some of them. And all I could figure is some of these people I carried up there were counterintelligence agents, and they'd give them a list of who to investigate and check further and so forth. But I never really knew for sure exactly how they got the intelligence out of the cages down there. But reconnaissance, I guess, is a French word, but it means to go out and spy and see what you can learn. So we'd go out in a Jeep and go through the infantry lines and run out, 8 or 10 miles or something of it, but the Germans were retreating at night, and then you jump off in the morning and they might retreat 100 yards and they might retreat 100 miles, and you didn't know where they were. So we'd go out, run recon and see if we could find any Germans, and then you'd turn around and come back and say, well, it's all clear. And to keep troops all lined up, you'd have markers like red line 1, red line 2, red line 3, and they were marked on these maps. So anyway, instructions were to advance to red line 1. And so all the troops would move up to there and dig in for the night, and it kept things in order. And but anyway, you'd come back in, and the Germans occasionally would capture a Jeep and get some American uniforms off of some dead soldiers or something, and they'd dress up some English-speaking GIs and send them through our lines, see if they could get into kind of mischief and tear things up behind our lines. So you'd come back in, and these infantrymen were a little leery about seeing somebody coming from the wrong direction, because we might not come back in the same road we went out on. But they carried their rifles with the barrel pointed to the ground, and rifles behind their shoulder and the strap was over. And it just casual as could be, but they'd drop that right shoulder, that strap would just slide off their shoulder, and then they just sort of ease that rifle up. It'd be across the forearm of the left arm, and they'd drop his hand back down on the trigger. they didn't trust us at all. So you always wanted to be sure you knew what the password was when you went out on patrol. But one time there was a Major Flint and a friend of mine named Reginald Burleson and I would usually go out every other day on recon, and there was another group that went out on the days that we didn't, and we pulled up, and I was sort of sitting in the back of the Jeep, and Reggie was driving, and this colonel or major was sitting there watching his maps and so forth, and he'd do that or something other, and Reginald was trying to watch where he was going, watch for signals, and all of a sudden this major just raised Cane with him. And Reginald said, what? He said, I'll show you to go that way. He said, sorry, I missed it, sir. So he'd have to turn around and go back and go left where he wanted him to go. But I said, hold it. And the road went down the foot of a hill and turned right angles and went up this hill and got to the top, and then it turned right angles again. So it's sort of a Z-shaped road, and up on top of that hill, there were German soldiers, just a tremendous number of them. And I said, hold it. And I said, look up on the hill. And we sat there a minute, and Reggie was trying to get that thing in reverse and get it turned around and get out of there. This major says, well, they've seen us. I said, yes, sir, they have. But I said, we're a little over 600 yards from them. And I said, effective range of small arms fire is about 300 to 400 yards. And I said, they'd just be shooting pretty wild to try to hit us at this distance. He said, well, let's go up there and see what's happening. And I said, why don't we drop somebody off here to tell the rest of them what happened to the two that went up there. I was ready to bail out. And he said, come on, we're going up the hill. And we went up there, and this German lieutenant stepped down behind the truck and saluted and says, we wish to surrender. And he said, well, how many troops do you have? He said, well, I'll accept your surrender. I said, how many troops do you have? He says, approximately 7,800. So here we were, three of us in a Jeep, no radio contact or anything. We accepted surrender of 7,800 Germans. And that's about as scared as I've ever been in my life. But anyway, he told them to get some sheets and make a big cross on the ground, pin them down. And he said, you can take a mile or 2 square miles or whatever it takes and put a sheet on each corner. And then they had white tape that they run around minefields. And he said, stretch this tape along from one of these crosses to another. And he says, any American spotter planes come over, they can see those white crosses and those white tapes. And he says, they won't direct fire on you. And we got some support aircraft. He says, they won't fire on you. He said, so nobody's going to fire on you, and you be secure. And he said, we'll have somebody up here by 9 o'clock in the morning. He says, how are your supplies? And I said, we have about 3 days supply of food and water. So he said, well, we'll arrange to show you where to go. And they send them someplace and they deposit their arms. And then they'd take them to some compound someplace and get them turned in and start processing them as prisoners. But that was scary.